Did you know that you can climb Mount Everest in as little as 8 hours? That's 8,848 meters, or in better terms, 29,029 feet above sea level. That's a lot of vertical ground to cover in less than 8 hours. Today, I'm going to inform you all about the sport of rock climbing, where it originated, the different styles available, and the equipment needed to do so. I grew up in a home where rock climbing was very popular because my mom enjoyed it. She would take my brother and I out climbing all the time. So I feel like this is the first time, or a perfect time, to bring it up to you guys because there's so many gyms opening up in the areas around you. So we're going to start at the beginning. The history of rock climbing is much more recent than other sports around the world. For example, football. Rock climbing starting as nothing more than a necessity to survive, and it morphed into something great. So, as Richard Chapo states, unlike many sports, climbing does not date back to ancient times. People tended to climb the steep faces of rocky cliffs only when they had to, and now they do it because they want to. It was a necessity to people. It was very dangerous, but now it's morphed into a beautiful sport, and there are gyms to accommodate beginners or people just willing to practice. And there's even people who do it just for the thrill. Now, along with that, rock climbing originated in 3 different areas. Germany is the first one, at the Elbe Sandstill Mountains. Here, I have Richard Chapo stating by 1903, there were almost 500 climbers active in this region, and climbing clubs are being formed. This is where people could talk about the different adventures they had had, the different experiences, the different culture, everything. Now, the second place is going to be in England, and here was where a lot of different cliff formations happened, where a lot of solo climbs originated. And here, people would talk about the things that they experienced on those adventures or the different techniques they used. Now, the third place is going to be in Italy at the Dolomite Mountains. This is where everything was more orientated towards safety, and this is where it was brought more to the U.S. Now, rock climbing may have originated in 3 specific spots, but there are 6 different types of climbing out there, different styles. I'm going to talk to you about the 3 that I thought were the most important, and I did rank them. So the first one is going to be mountaineering. So when I tell you I went rock climbing this weekend, that's what you're going to think of. That's what you're picturing in your head is actually mountaineering, which is a more advanced style. That's not something a beginner would just do. So mountaineering is essentially starting at the base of a cliff and climbing straight up. You're using equipment, yes, but there's no one else with you. It's just you. This is a very advanced form. Now the form under this is going to be transitional climbing. Transitional climbing is essentially where you're going to climb up the face of a cliff, yes, but you're using equipment and you're with other people. Now in this group of people, there's going to be a leader, and the leader is going to follow behind you. He's going to remove all of the safety equipment as you move up the cliff. So in that form, it's a little bit different. Now, third type is going to be sport climbing. Sport climbing is essentially the same thing as free climbing, where equipment is used for safety instead of upward progression. So sport climbing is something you're going to do in a gym. It's something for a beginner or people who are practicing. This is where all of your equipment is provided for you, for the most part, and all of your safety equipment is already inserted in the walls. It's not removed at any point in time. It will always be there. All right? So those are the 3 things that I thought were going to be the most important of the different styles. Those are going to be more important to you. I went from beginner to intermediate all the way up to advanced. Now, with these different styles comes different equipment that you're going to have to use. I also ranked the equipment from basic, intermediate to advanced. Now, the first thing that I have that I think is the most important is going to be clothing. You need something that you can easily move around in, that you can reach awkward positions, stretch your legs out. It has to be comfortable. Now the second thing is going to be rubber-soled climbing shoes. These are essential, not dirty old tennis shoes, rubber-soled climbing shoes. You need these in order to grip the rocks properly, and your foot's going to form to the shape so that it doesn't slip off. They need to fit, and they need to be comfortable, not too big and not too little. All right? So next I have intermediate supplies. These are going to be basic things that are going to be provided at a gym. So this is going to be something like a harness. And I have Lola Jones from Extreme Sport quoting, "The harness provides a comfortable means of attaching yourself to the rope that will prevent you from plummeting." So essentially, it's going to keep you in an upright position the entire time you're coming down the side of the cliff. Or if you let loose a rock and you're kind of falling down, the rope is going to help you go down slower at a more comfortable rate, but the harness is going to keep you upright instead of sideways or upside down. Now with this, you should be wearing a helmet as well. A helmet's going to keep you safe from any falling rocks, any debris, or even if the wind were to catch you and push you against the cliff. It's so you don't knock your head, okay? Now, I know helmets aren't the cool thing. Like when you're a kid riding a bicycle, you didn't want to be the kid wearing the helmet, but you have to wear it. It's essential, okay? You don't want to get knocked out at the top of a cliff. Then what? So from here, I have our more advanced equipment. So I'm going to talk about nuts and pros. And nuts and pros, it's a basic concept. So it's a small piece of equipment smaller than my fist. You insert it in the rock and it holds the rope in place, so it's not flying away from the cliff when you need it. Now there's two kinds. There's an active pro and a passive pro. The passive pro is the simpler version. You just wedge it right in the rock and then insert your rope. Now an active pro, you wedge it in the rock and you release a trigger, and the trigger expands behind the rock. Now this keeps it from easily being pulled out. This is going to be a more expensive version, but either or will do the job just fine. So I just went through a couple different equipments with you, starting with basic all the way to advanced. It depends on what kind of climbing you're going to be doing, according to what kind of equipment you're going to use. So rock climbing started as a sport with little known about its techniques and origination, but now it's morphed into a widely known sport with much more safety protocol for all types of experiences. In conclusion, we took a look at where rock climbing originated, the different styles out there, and we even took a look at the different kinds of equipment needed for those styles. Who would have thought that stringing yourself out on a rope off the edge of a cliff would be such a widely known sport? Once again, we are in an era where cars no longer run on gas but electricity, and where people choose to jump out of airplanes with parachutes instead of being forced to. Anything can happen, and that continues to be true from day to day, so why not rock climbing as well?